going down? We're back. We're back. We're on here. We are back on the Prize Fight podcast. We're so glad that you would join us again. Brent and Spencer here with another episode. We're number 8. We're rolling on this thing. So hopefully you heard all 8. If you haven't, go back, listen to it. I didn't apologize on the last one, but our 5th and 6th one, which were good conversations, we were trying to still figure out this whole audio situation. So
Yep.
got a lot of comments is like, it's echoey. Well, we know that. I told you that in the beginning. So hopefully we got it fixed. So hopefully you can hear us clear, see us clear, all those things. So today I wanted to have another conversation. And if you listen to the last podcast, we talked a lot about what it takes to kind of work through being genuine in our fight. And I think a lot of that has to do with finding a place in life that you connected with a group of people that can kind of anchor you into being who you are and being okay with all the junk that comes with being human. And so this topic today, I wanted to really talk about what community looks like and why it's so important to have that in your life. Why is it so important to have people that you can entrust with the ins and outs of your life and being okay with, being real enough to connect in those places? Because I think maybe it's just me, but the older I get, the harder that is. I don't know if you have that problem or not, but I do.
Yeah, I think it took me until I became older to really find the value in having a few
Yeah.
friends, having a community that you can be vulnerable with, not so much. I mean, don't tell us everything, not, but vulnerable and real with, that you can bounce things off of and um, really respect the feedback and content that you're sharing amongst each other.
Yeah.
I think it took me a while and took me until I was older to really see the value in just having a few and having that community.
So was that more of, man, I don't want anybody to know my stuff, or is it more of trying to find the right type of community?
I think coming out of addiction, I learned that having a community is powerful and is valuable.
Yeah.
Um, and sharing, I think within that community, if it's appropriate and whenever you find yours, you'll know
Yeah.
to share that information, to even say, yeah, I've had some issues in the past and here they are.
Yeah.
Right. I don't feel like we need to go tell our neighbor that,
Yeah.
because they don't care. But um, I feel like, I guess it kind of came out of that,
Yeah.
but not so much that I was um, hiding stuff, or that I was ashamed of what I had done. But it's just coming out of that. I knew that I wanted to surround myself with a couple of people that, one, had been through what I've been through, two, that I respected their feedback, and if I did need to air out an issue, that I could, and know that it was safe and it wasn't going anywhere else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think
Okay.
I think there's a lot of dynamics that come with trying to find, like, we use the phrase tribe, trying to find the right tribe for you. And I mean, even for me, somebody that works at a church, I love the people that I serve and I love the people I go to church with. Now, I will say this: there are levels of what I will divulge to groups of that. And
Yeah,
so like,
and you read that even within your community and your
yeah, yeah,
tribe, you
yeah,
still, of
yeah, and
course, and I feel like we should. I personally feel like you should.
yeah.
Right.
And
Hmm.
I'll say, like, I'm the first to admit, my wife is always like, "You're like way oversharing," you know. And so
Oh,
like,
okay.
and so like, well, and the funny thing is because of my going through counseling and currently going through counseling, it wasn't always like that. I was the one that was so reserved and would hold back because um I didn't want a lot of people to know. Again, not that I was hiding stuff from them and wanting and just doing all the secret junk. It was just more of like, I just don't want you to be in my business. I just don't really
Right.
care for you. And since I've gone through counseling, I've been more available to share that stuff. But like, even to a point where my wife's like, maybe you shouldn't say those things. Like, you shouldn't be so honest
Yeah.
and real about stuff. But I think that that's in a way how you are able to develop a true community, is that you have to get to a certain level of being so honest that
Vulnerability. Yeah.
yeah, that those people can take what you're saying and go, yeah, okay, this is who this person is, and do we accept those things about them, to come into this space, and that we can trust him with our stuff. Like, he's being so honest. Well, maybe it's okay for me to trust him with my stuff if he's okay with being that honest and open about certain things as well.
Yeah. I feel like we know our limit. We know our levels.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like if it's between you and somebody else, then I feel like it's inappropriate to go share with somebody else because that's disrespectful to the other party that you're
Yeah.
dealing with. But if you're having an issue with something, if you're struggling with something, if you're fighting with something, or even if you want to celebrate something and it's you,
Yeah.
then I feel like it's good to have that community to share with and to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, um, I feel like I will always hold back in order not to share too much.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what does it take in somebody else for you to be on a higher level of vulnerability? Like, what are the qualities, or what do you need to see in somebody in order to go, okay, okay, I can do this with that person, or what, or the community, or whatever?
Yeah. Um, I think the Sunday school answer is trust, right? Which is just so.
I mean, okay. So you say trust. What is the outward appearance from somebody that makes you trust? I mean, that's really the question that I have. I mean, I think we all can agree that we'd have to go into a place of trust. But
Right.
what is it that is shown to you to go, okay, this person is trustworthy? Because it's not always about what they share. I mean, you just
No,
it's not always about that.
man, dang it! You told me you were going to come with a hard one today too. Um, I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay.
I don't. I think it's because I only have a select few that I even feel
Yeah.
like I can trust, and so it's not a one size fits all type of
Yeah.
thing. I I obviously have uh, my walls up, and I'm very guarded.
Yeah.
And if I look at what makes somebody a part of my community, would be one one is related to me and has seen me with all my flaws and hasn't judged me and has shown me tough love and um, still loves me,
Yeah.
I would assume.
You hope.
Still loves me. And then, the other one is to where um, I can share those flaws and those unmet expectations and those failures, and they still respect me as a person and what I have to say.
Yeah.
Um, and so I guess that's does that answer the question? I guess that's kind of what I
Yeah.
um, I guess that's what I have, because it's not like I'm out recruiting for the
Oh
community.
yeah, yeah,
I feel like I have it, and I that's kind of the baseline.
yeah, yeah. I think for me, it's just continual showing up throughout. Whatever the situation may be, that they're constant. There's just this consistency about who they are and what they stand for, because that's something that for me personally, strive for, because I think in a world of people being so dramatic about life, is that it's unique to see someone that is consistent with every time they show up in your life, or show up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're the same. They're not
Mhm.
losing their mind about something that's inconsistent with who I thought they were. And like for me, I know I strive so hard with most people to be consistent. Of I don't get too high, I don't get too low. If I get angry, it depends on what it is, but very rarely do I get at the heights of anger that I lose sight of who I really am and who I am consistently.
Yeah.
And so usually who you got today is probably who you're going to get a year from now. And I've really worked at that. And that to me is how I know I can trust other people, because, oh, well, they're the same. They're not like totally different the next time I see them, or respond in such a way that throws me off of,
Right. Right. And I feel like, um, I think for anybody listening, if they're saying, "Well, I have a big community," which you might, but I doubt it, because I truly feel like, or my opinion is, you can be around people and you can have people that are with you,
yeah,
but they're not really for you.
yeah, I agree.
And there's a difference.
Yeah,
There's a difference, and I feel like at times people might get caught up with the ones that they're with you, but they're not necessarily for you.
yeah,
And I've learned that with some time.
yeah. Yeah, the older
Yeah.
you get. Well, and we've talked about this a couple podcasts ago, but a lot of it is they're with you until you affect the thing that they hold sacred. And
Yeah.
for a lot of people, I hate that this is the case, but if you take the context of church, that people view church to be a specific way, and they make the way about it more sacred than the person who is Jesus that they're pursuing. And so if you affect the thing that they're holding sacred about what church is, then they get upset, and they don't really like, they're not for you, because they're like, well, you're not for our community, so to speak. But the truth of the matter,
Yeah.
not about that. It's about you holding something sacred that is not the pursuit of relationship that is Christ. And so they get so wound up by that. And I'm saying this from a person that has been in three different denominations throughout his life, and leaving one, going into another, literally had people go, well, I can't believe you went. It's like, well, what's the difference? Like,
Yeah.
I'm in the pursuit of a holy God, not your sacred cow that I'm supposed to do and have and be okay with. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you're upset, but that made them upset. That all of a sudden, and I think the other thing is that it's okay, be okay with changing your community if need be.
Yeah.
Don't feel like
Yeah.
you be stuck in this rut of, like you said, being with a lot of people that may be with you until you do something that doesn't fit the standard that they think, and then
Yeah.
you're ostracized for that. And then you have to change everything that you are, because you're not. You have to fit that thing. You have to fit that mold,
Hmm.
shape. I think a lot of people just, as far as churches, they're leaving all together. They just say, well, if this is how that is, I'm not going to find one that would accept this. I can be a part of that community. So all together, I'm leaving, instead of knowing that there is a community out there. that's worth giving it a shot and giving it an opportunity.
Yeah, I think whenever we don't meet an expectation of others, is when you figure out who your community is, right? So uh, when we were younger, you always knew who your friends were when if they were still around when times got tough, right? And uh, my funny joke about it is you always figure out who your friends are when the cops show up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's real then, and you're like, we're gonna see who's Uh, but I feel like at times if we don't meet the expectations of others, and that's their own internal expectation that they made up,
Yeah.
and if we don't meet their expectation, then um, they they're not for us, and they leave and move on. And I feel like that's where um, that saying is, they're not really for you; they're just with you.
So like playing off what your this phrase being with you not for you,
Yeah.
I think part of a good community is having people that surround you that hold you to a healthy level of account. And I think that is one of the hardest things people can't they can't. And I think even from a spiritual sense, I always say people always say they want accountability until they're held.
Yeah.
Like they don't they say that all day. Help me do this, help me, and then you question them or whatever, and so I think part of the trust you're saying. I think that a lot of people easily think that people are not formed when, and so how do you fight that in yourself? Oh, hey, they're just doing this out of acceptance of who you are, but also trying to help what you've really asked them to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you fight that? How do you battle through these people are still for me, but yet I've got to be okay with them speaking into those places that I'm inconsistent or not measuring up to really what I've asked them to hold me accountable to.
That's tough. I think that's what I think that's one of the variables and characteristics of having your tribe and your community is you're all in the agreement to where when if you're slipping or if you need help in an area, um, or if you do slip, that we do love you enough to say something about it, and we love you enough to uh, bring it up and talk about it and hold you accountable to become better and or walk with you through it. And so I feel like if you trusted these people enough to call them your tribe or your community, and you get upset when they um, give you a word of encouragement when you do slip or when you do fall short, one, that's probably your ego,
Yeah.
and two, then maybe you're not holding your end of the deal up as being a member of that community or that tribe if you're um, being offended by somebody holding you accountable or calling you out on something. I feel like that's more of an ego.
I mean, it's such a battle to me, and I think that's why a lot of people leave certain communities. Also, is because it's hard to be called out on your inconsistency and
Yeah.
and accept that as not an attack, but really, like you said, it's really showing somebody the respect of love to go, hey, I care for you so much that I see these things that are not lining up with who you really are, who we know you to be.
Or who you say to be,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, and if you're going off if you're going rogue on your own narrative, then I would expect somebody who loves me to call me out, right? People loved me when I was going through some hard times and called me out on it, and I didn't listen. right? So, and that was on me, not on them. And it took me all these years to realize it was out of love that they were trying to hold me accountable and trying to remind me of the goal, the end goal, right? And so I feel like it's on that other person to where if they get offended by being reminded
Yeah.
on what their goal was and what they told us their goal was.
Yeah.
So if I tell you today that my goal is to maintain my weight, lose weight, cut down on sugar, but you and I are up at the stadium eating like we were this past week, and I order, you know, the chocolate lava cake with 2 scoops of ice cream and extra syrup, and you're sitting there across the table saying, "Hey, bro, I thought you said you wanted
Yeah.
to," and I get mad, and I'm like, "What do you mean? I mean, that's not on Brent. That's on Spencer, right? That's on me."
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people want they want the wisdom without the work and the story without the struggle.
Yeah.
They do,
Yeah.
and but it's going to take us uh, in our communities, in our tribes, to go through things together, to go through the struggles together, go through the work together, in order to get that story of success and that wisdom that we all say we want. Hmm.
Our response is usually the opposite. I would think a lot of times we we want to think that we're people that are evolved enough that go, oh yeah, when somebody holds me accountable, I am not easily offended. But I think typically the thing that you're wanting to be held accountable to is the thing that you struggle with the most. And so when somebody calls you out, you already know that. And so we don't typically respond well to that. We typically, like you said, we get mad and we get offended, and a lot of people get offended to the point where they totally leave that community altogether.
Yeah,
I've seen that. I've seen that happen hundreds of times, and like, first of all, don't. The problem is also is like you don't see your side of the fault in that. You don't like you think it's everybody else's fault. You're starting to blame, and it's like, no, like we might have had a small part to do with that, but like you, you too probably had a big reason as to why this didn't work out or why you're upset or why you're you know but in that I think that we also need to understand that that's those stuff in that community, that stuff's going to happen. And so what are you willing to do together to work through those things to keep the community intact? Because a lot of people don't want to put in the work to keep that together, you know.
yeah, they don't. They want the wisdom without the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to take. I feel like each person needs a team member,
Yeah.
and um, and I know you're married, so you have your team member, or if other people are dating and they have their team member,
Yeah.
or um, but I feel like when I say community or tribe, I'm thinking a little. I'm meaning outside of what you already have
Yeah.
with your loved one.
Yeah.
Um, I feel like that in order for us to be successful, it's important to invest into others, and hopefully you're invested into um, others that you want to make your community. And I feel like if we can find those that we trust and find those that we can learn from, and that will pick us up and dust us off and tell us try again when we fail, or when we come to them with the failure, that we'll have a healthier life and a more successful life. I think now the caveat is, don't overshare, but you know your community and you know your tribe to what oversharing is, or what's appropriate. But I feel like it's important to have those people that are going to be with you, to celebrate, and then also be with you to um, help you bounce back.
Yeah.
I,
I think there's different types. I think that you kind of in a way have to have multiple communities. Like for me personally, I have to have a place where I'm not that not that all communities don't help you grow, but I think there's probably one that you have that a place for you to develop and grow, and it's usually people that are excelling in a different realm that you glean off their expertise. So you're kind of in that place of you probably don't share as much, but you're hoping that what they're sharing you grow in. And then
Hmm.
one where you're kind of in that reverse role. You're the one in the community that's sharing a lot for others to glean off of. I think
Right.
it could be your work, it could be whatever, but I think you have
Yeah.
that. And then, what we're kind of talking about is probably the most important is those that you walk alongside. So, like we're in like a lateral movement, kind of going somewhere, and we're all trying to journey through it together. But I think you have to have all of those things so that I don't know, to be well rounded, I think that obtain wisdom, give wisdom, and across the board. And sometimes it might be in the same group, it might be in the same, but for me, I know I have to have different ones so that like I know this sounds selfish, but you're getting I get getting complete surrounded with what you eating so that you can be successful.
Hmm. I think it. I don't know if it. I don't. Is there such thing as a good selfish to where we're all benefiting from the community? I don't. I don't know if that's even selfish. Is it selfish or is it just?
Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
I I
I
think
think it'd be selfish for us to just expect and
oh
then
yeah,
for us not to provide.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm saying. Like I think that why I say there's three different ones is because I think you can't be somebody that just sits back and takes it all in. Like I think that you have to
Yeah.
be giving. So I think
Yeah.
there's a space where you take in all the as much as you can share. But then in turn, I think that you're put in like I know that I'm in put in positions, and the only reason I'm in that community is to impart wisdom, and not saying
Hmm.
being this person. I'm just saying like that's
Yeah.
play in
Yeah.
every.
We have to be engaged and
Yeah.
participate and yeah, provide feedback. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think that there's ones like you say, like there's those that small intimate group that's an everyday group that you are walking through whatever it is, um, with them, and again that's probably your most intimate group. But I would say that we have groups that we are in and out of throughout life, and our like you we've talked about our roles are different. Our role
Yeah.
you
Yeah. And in one group you could be A, and then the other group you could be C and D. It's just I think as long as we're there to help and to listen and sometimes not even talk or try to provide, but if we are there to listen, that helps. Sometimes people don't need all the answers. Maybe they need to vent.
yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you just need to sit back and let them unravel all of the stuff that they're dealing with. So
Yeah, and let them talk
call
through
counseling
it, and
and therapy. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, and as they talk through it, then they usually solve the issue. They have the issue, or they solve the issue right there as they're talking
Yeah,
through it. Yeah.
yeah. They're processing. I know
Hmm.
that's kind of our household is that we talk until we exhaust the other one, I guess, because we're like, okay, I got it all out now. I can process those things or whatever the
Yeah.
frustration. So I think that's so important to know and also know the limit of somebody else. Like, okay, yeah, I've exhausted you and whatever it is that I'm unraveling right.
Yeah.
Okay, with okay, you've had enough, and next time I'll let you unravel. That is so. So like, if somebody was if somebody was looking for a community, like what are the things that you would say, hey, look for these things first as they're looking for something that they're looking for? I mean, obviously we already said trust, but somebody's like, hey, I'm desperate need of this in a group. Um, what should I be or what should I? And I know a lot of people go, well, you have something in common. I mean, that's an easy, but you know,
Yeah. And I usually, I mean, in business, you say, look for the ones who have what you want, right? And that's in business, but that could also be personal to where if for a time in my life, my community was with others that had gone through exactly
yeah,
what I was going through at the moment. So yes, we are like minded, but they were already successful at and we're further on down the line in their sobriety and in their recovery.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's a different type of community because you can be vulnerable in those in your struggles, but within that group, you don't run off and go spill the beans about your girlfriend not picking up her dirty socks or whatever. That's not appropriate for that type of
yeah,
community. So yeah, the generic answers would be people you trust, people you're comfortable with,
yeah,
people you can relate to, people you respect. Again, I'm not gonna go ask the neighbor about my business idea that I might have if all he does is play video games all day.
yeah.
Probably not gonna probably not gonna ask him for advice or ask him to um,
Partner with you in your venture.
yeah. I'm not gonna form a partnership with this person,
Yeah,
right? So totally different. I don't know why I never got into video games, but that's a different talk. But
yeah.
anyways, um, it's just I guess that's what I would
Got
suggest
you
is.
PS5 in the background of
Oh really? Where is that? What is that?
my
What it?
background.
Oh okay.
And I don't
Oh
play it that
cool.
much
Is that
either.
what that thing
I'm not
is?
a avid gamer either.
Oh
It's a
okay.
mindless thing when I work out. I can play and work out at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Fine.
Okay.
Anyway,
I think my issue was I couldn't sit still long enough.
yeah, there you go.
I couldn't. I was too hyper. I think I still am.
Yeah,
But if y'all ever watch the videos, I squirm a lot. But um, and you can hear my dog snore. I think that's what I would look for, and that's what when I was in very early stages of recovery, I went to those classes. I mean, they don't have to be AA classes. There are small groups out there that still talk about the struggle and can help you walk through your journey. And it doesn't have to be called AA. There are small groups out there that meet um, that you can find that are people that are made of people just like you or that have gone through things just like you have. Mm-hmm.
so in a previous podcast, you had me share a lot about why I believe the church comes off hypocritical.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone coming to you that I'm looking at making my church, how would you have to pursue that with how you view it? I'm just curious.
Okay, what was the question? How would I?
Like if he was like, "Hey, I'm going to pursue my community as like the church is going to be my community," and like what I would ask you is, how would you have them go forward in that? You you have an interesting perspective.
Um, if somebody came and asked me that, I would say, "Hey, that's great."
And if you
Talking
didn't
about
listen to
being
our
fake.
podcast about being fake in the last show, please go check that one out, and you can decipher this one for yourself. So
I'd say that's great, and then I'd
yeah,
run the
there
other
you
way.
go.
I would say I think that's a great idea. However, I would tread lightly, and
Yeah,
I would definitely dip your toe first.
yeah,
And if they offer small groups, then maybe test a couple of them out.
yeah,
And if it works, that's great. I would not. Um, I would definitely not crush their idea or try to sway their idea, um, because of my experience with that organization.
yeah, yeah,
Because who am I to do that? I wouldn't give my 25 cents. Now, if they came back 6 weeks later and said, "Hey, why didn't you tell me that they did X, Y, and Z there?" and they're just full of, I'd be like, "Well, I didn't want to say that. I wanted you
yeah,
to find that out on your own." Or maybe their experience would have been awesome, and maybe I was the one off.
yeah,
Um, but I think communities do um, happen in churches. I think churches, um, or when I used to go, I mean, they did offer small groups, and I think that's a great idea. I think the different small groups, at times, I've seen them to where they study one subject, or I've seen the small group say, if you're 18 to 21 and you like video games, sports,
yeah,
and coffee, then this is your community. This is your small group, and
yeah,
and I think that's awesome because I think that's needed.
yeah,
I really do. Somebody who has the opinion in the past that I do. I think that's great because I truly feel like um, the church recognizes that we do need a community and we do need a tribe in order to walk through and battle through life. I think it's a great idea.
yeah. Yeah, I think you're gonna say that all of them do it perfectly, and I've met here before. I think that there's a great potential of finding, even if it's a few people, like you said, like if it's 4 or 5 people in there that are going through something that you are, or um, are journeying through, kind of the same time frame of life too. Like, a lot of groups are made through the church are made out of like age groups or with young kids or with,
Hmm.
they're experiencing a lot of the similarities in life others are, so that can be built that way. Now, I will say I've seen it be go horribly wrong too. I'm not saying that it's perfect. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, I think that you can say that for there's people that think they're going to find community going to the bar too. And that doesn't really work out either. So I mean,
yeah. And some people will even tell you that's their community,
yeah,
right? I feel like uh, I say loosely, my local baristas
yeah,
at a very popular coffee shop. I said, "Yeah, man, that's my community. Like they're my people,
yeah,
right?"
yeah, yeah,
And I, that's when I say that, that's not what I mean. They're not my intimate. I don't share
yeah.
my. Uh,
They know you by name and probably know your order.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah, and yeah, without even saying anything.
Yeah,
I think those relationships are good.
yeah,
Those are great as well.
yeah,
Um, I think in early, is it 90s or 80s? What was the sitcom called? Cheers.
yeah. Everybody knows your
I
name.
think that's kind of an example of a community, of a community, not one that um,
But
you.
then isn't it funny? We watched growing up, and even today, we watch shows that it doesn't matter where it was done, like you say, like at the bar, or you go a couple years down the road, you go to Friends, sitting in a coffee shop all day long.
Yeah,
You know, every show that we've enjoyed throughout our lives had to do with community. I think we deep down, when we should, I mean, we were created to be in community.
yeah,
We wonder why we're so hungry, and I would say it was already kind of bad before, but I think pandemic really opened our eyes to how much we do hunger for that. When it's taken away, it's much different than when we have an option to be in community or not. And when it was taken,
Yeah,
we're like, oh yeah, we desperately need that.
yeah. And if you take it down a little bit more, it's just it's relationships, and
Yeah,
relationships are important. Yeah, I almost feel like everything comes back to relationships,
yeah,
um, and building those relationships. And once you build it with a few, or with one or two others, um, then we can label it as your tribe, or as a community. But I think it does. Although shows do, um, their relationships that
yeah.
people had, and I
Like I mean,
think
my every time we finish a series of something like that, my wife gets all sad at the end. She's like, "It's like we're losing literal friends. We've been watching this for months on end, finishing some show, and she's like, oh, we're losing these people, or whatever." So, and that's what the odd feeling of that is. It's like, oh, these people are not going to be in our lives for a while. I mean, we can go visit them some other time, but
yeah,
we're
yeah,
done right now with this, and it's so true in life, that we lose that. We had some really good friends that lived here with in where we live, and they moved off, and we hadn't seen them in a while. Yet we went this summer and saw them in Oklahoma, and it was just one of the most refreshing weeks that we've had in a long time. And it was because, and we didn't do anything. We just were at their house hanging with their family all week, and we absolutely did nothing, and it was the best like time away that we've had in forever. And it just shows how much the importance is of, in a way, like-minded people. I mean, you can still get along and be in a tribe with people that don't share every opinion you could have,
right.
but it does lend itself to work out more when it's people that are on the uh, same place as you are, same thoughts, and that generally think the way that you do, and live the way that you do.
Yeah, I think some of the best relationships that you can have is when you can sit around and talk about nothing,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
exactly
it's
what
still a
happened.
good time.
Yeah,
It's just that's a good relationship.
yeah,
I I think, if you kind of look back, and I'm sure you did, when your parents' friends came over
yeah.
when you were a little kid, and you'd always go, "What are y'all talking about?" And the adults would
They're
always
like
say,
nothing.
"Nothing."
Yeah, yeah,
And it sounds weird, but as we get older, we're like, those are the good relationships. Those are the ones that have lasted.
yeah.
When you can sit around and talk about nothing.
So, like, as we were getting close to being done,
Okay.
so like, what you brought that up, and I always think about this. Like, they've kind of changed, but kind of the same thing. Like, I look at my parents, and I look at, like, my mom has still to this day two friends that were, I mean, they were from like high school. She's in her
Uh-huh.
a couple of, married couples that they do stuff, and they've done stuff with them forever. And I always talk to my wife about how I feel like that's such a struggle. And the thing that I wonder is it just the time is different, or is it just simply we we are such a guarded people more so today that we don't want to involve ourselves. And I think a lot of it, we've talked about this a million times, social media has something to do with, we don't really have to be face to face with somebody to know what's going on in our lives. So we don't have to invest like community
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
In that, instead of, back in the day, it was like, unless you talked on the phone with them, like they came to your house and you found out what they've been doing. So
Yeah.
like, I don't know if it's we're so guarded as a people that we can't do that anymore, or if it's just, I don't know, different. I don't. I just I can't put my finger on it because I feel like it's so much harder for that to happen than it used.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons why. I think we're more guarded. I feel like we recognize people are oversensitive, or we feel like they're oversensitive. Um, I feel like our generation, or possibly let's just say that younger generations now that aren't our parents, maybe don't value relationships and community and tribe as much as what our parents did. I feel like that maybe younger generations, they might still um, have, bros night or guys night or girls night or whatever that stuff's called.
Yeah.
Um, and that's fine and that's awesome, but I don't know if that's so much a community. I think it's um, maybe an escape.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that could be that. I think that conversation could go left real quick.
Yeah.
So I better shut my mouth. But I feel like maybe we don't. Maybe now with social media, we feel like we are with them,
Yeah.
but we're really not. Which I think we'll go back to with, but not for. And people feel like they know us already. They feel like they are in a relationship with us because of what we post or don't post. And if they can relate with what we do post, maybe they do feel like a sense of community
Yeah.
because they agree with our certain points and um, feel like that we're connected that way. Um, I don't know. It's funny. The older I get, I'm like, man, our parents have it down.
Yeah. And
They
once
really do. They have,
they were.
yeah. And at the time, I was like, oh man, why is so and so coming over again? And
Yeah.
it's just we didn't recognize that. And then now we get up to our 40s, and um, maybe we're missing out on that. Maybe we don't have those strong bonds like we used to.
But I think it goes back to what you said. Are you for that person enough to fight fight for it? Because I think that that's the issue, is that there's this battle. I mean, we're on Prize Fight podcast, and there's a battle to remain intact, a community that you really want to see have a longevity. And I think so many people are just kind of like, it gets to a point where the fight's not worth it to a lot of them. And I think we need to evaluate that. I think that a lot of these things it's worth fighting for. I Granted, there are times where you simply have to let certain people go in certain situations, and just it is what it is. But for the most part, I think that we don't want to put as much effort into making those relationships work, because you are any person that is with somebody for a long time uh can get annoyed, can get frustrated, can get, that's what's going to happen. You
Yeah,
Our parents, there's stuff, we've been with our parents for 40 years, and we know that they
yeah,
stuff that frustrate us and stuff, but yet, like, we all fight to keep the family intact. Most of us do. There's some that are
yeah,
crazy
yeah,
and go off deep in with stuff, but I mean, that's why it works, because there's this fight that's going on. Say, regardless of how we end a conversation and stuff, we're still fighting for this to be intact. I don't know if that is the case with a lot of relationships today, because, like you said, it's either being oversensitive, or I can get enough from picking up my 5 seconds to see what you're doing and be okay with that, instead of, hey, let's really work at being in, let's create space for us to be, you know, hash out or work through, or to just catch up on, this is what's going
mhm.
on. I wouldn't say we don't care enough, but don't.
Yeah. I don't. I think the tools or the media that was created to make us to share
Yeah.
and
Well, initially, those were created to create community. That's
that's
what.
what I was going to say. It was created to share and to make us more social, which now has I feel like has made us the most
Yeah.
antisocial generation ever.
Yeah.
Ironically, and it was to create these communities, and I feel like it's a little generic of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, when we say community and tribe, I think um, it's kind of watered it down a little bit. It's not because it's not real.
Yeah.
It's it's not real ish.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And we've talked about this. There's just people that there's no physical way that you can be in the vicinity of. A, a
Yeah,
I have a good friend that lives in California. There's no way that we can make that happen on a regular.
yeah,
So that's the way that we're able to do that from time to time. And so I understand that aspect of it, but yet there's some people that live. I'm Facebook friends with somebody I literally live across the street from, and like I mean, do I go across the street and go, "Hey, how's your day? What's going?" No, I shut my door and go inside. I mean,
yeah,
that's that's what's wild about those situations. Where that was not the case. That before all this, you checked on neighbors. When we lived in Lubbock, and this is again, times have changed dramatically. We buy this house and our fence line, we shared a fence line with this other person. And there on that fence line was a gate that went into each other's backyard. And because the people that had that house before were like, "Oh, we were good friends and we would have backyard parties," and I'm like, "Well, this ain't the same neighbor. I'm not walking into my backyard." But again, like that time was so different, and maybe we should be more like that. We should be okay, a little bit more okay with, like yeah, sometimes it's uncomfortable with having people in your space, but maybe we need that. We need
yeah,
to feel tension at times, and to work through those things of what does it really take to be a part of a community, a culture that going to, like you said, fight for each other, and that's hard. But that's why
yeah.
50% of marriages end in divorce. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. You have to
Yeah,
work at those. But on a high note, it's worth it. Ending this podcast, I truly believe that living in a community with people is worth the fight, worth your time and efforts for.
yeah. As long as you are engaged and participate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think that it's needed, and it's also, it gets you out of that funk of, you know, I don't think there's enough people that have spaces to share their complete selves in, and I think that that's so important today. You know, we 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 wonder why depression is at an all-time high, and it's because people,
Hmm.
they're suffering in silence alone, scrolling on a phone of everybody's highlight reel instead of engaging in a culture with go through whatever they're going, really voice those things. It's so hard to live that way, and so I think again, it's worth it. I hope this episode encourages anyone listening to pursue that in some way. Hopefully, you already have it, and that's great. I just know from experience there are people out there that are not even on the radar, and they're wondering why life is at an all time low right now. I think that's one of the major reasons as why it is.
It's tough, and yeah, for sure, find somebody or a few somebodies that you can uh, help better each other and help each other through things and celebrate things and walk through things together when times aren't so good. And um, there's your community.
Well, hopefully this will help you look for one. And if you're listening again, we're so grateful that you would. Sometimes it's just probably us rambling, and maybe you enjoy a good ramble on about stuff. But hopefully you enjoy listening to the podcast. Again, we're on all audio platforms. Go take a listen. Go watch us on. If you're watching on it already, we're on YouTube. If you're not, let friends know that they can catch us on YouTube as well. Be back next week with another installment of the Prize Fight podcast, and we'll catch y'all later on the next episode. See y'all later.